Okay, so I am starting to wonder if my overheating issues in my '01 Volkswagen Beetle with the ALH TDI engine aren't actually a result of a failed water pump. So how you can check that is right down here. You can pull the thermostat housing and the thermostat out, which this actually has a week or two old thermostat and thermostat housing on it. I didn't think I had a bad water pump, so I didn't check that when I changed it. But I am going to be pulling those out, and it'll be the same. This is the same procedure you would use for if you were just changing your thermostat. I'm going to pull those out and check the water pump impeller and see if that is on the impeller shaft tightly. Because if it's not, that can slip, and that could be causing my overheating problem. So the tools you're going to need for this are a set of channel locks, or pliers work, but I prefer channel locks, a magnet to grab those screws. The bottom one is very difficult to get out, and so once you get it loose with the hex bit, you're going to want to be able to go on there with a magnet and twist it out so you don't drop it. If you lose it, it can get stuck in your alternator and cause problems. I have a couple scraps of used aluminum foil that I'm going to use to cover up the alternator so that when I pull the radiator hose off of the thermostat housing, it doesn't get too much coolant on the alternator. And then I have a new bottle of coolant, and I have an old bottle that I cut the top off of, and I'll use the top for a funnel to pour the coolant back in, and I am using the bottom as a drain pan to drain the coolant out of the radiator into it so I don't waste it. Okay, so you are on the driver's side front of the car. That's the bumper, and you're just right back there on the driver's side. And you can see this is the coolant drain, this is the knob. So you are going to twist it and pull out. I don't think I can get a video of this once I have the drain pan in, but you twist it like that and then pull it out and it will drain. But you want to make sure you have a pan under there, because typically you'll get about a gallon of, well, not a gallon, 3/4 of a gallon of coolant out. Okay, so at this point I have drained the coolant of the car kind of at a low spot and on a couple of 2x6s, or I guess 2x6 and 2x4, get me plenty of room under there. And this time it looks like I have about 1.5 quarts in that. I also went ahead and put the aluminum foil as best I could to cover the radiator. At this point, you're going to come in here with your channel locks, your pliers, and you don't want to damage this clip, but they're pretty tough. Squeeze it together and work it backwards off of the thermostat housing. There we go. You can just kind of let it clamp down over nothing. And then we are going to re-put the aluminum foil in, and then gently work this radiator hose off. Also, for draining the coolant, having the coolant overflow tank open can help that to drain out. So I'm going to go off camera so I have two hands for this. Okay, so we got this hose pulled free. They are pretty on there pretty tight. I like to pull it up and out of the way, let it rest like this, out of the way here. At this point, we are going to grab our socket with our hex key on it. Yeah, let me see if I can get the camera to show where it's at. I can't. There is, on the bottom side though of the housing, there is another hex bolt. So we're going to pull those two bolts out. Be very careful not to drop the bottom one, or the top one, but the bottom one's the hard one. Okay, so I successfully got both bolts out. The bottom one is the real pain, like I said. They are pretty long, so it's not like you have to worry about them, falling out as soon as you get them released. Okay, so at this point we have the screws pulled out, and because I just changed this, mine is not stuck in there. Yours, you're likely going to have to kind of wiggle on and pull, but because I just changed this, it just fell right out. And let's see how I can do this. I can prop it right here. This, well, maybe you can see right there. Yeah. You can see the little thing, the two bars, that's part of the housing, and that arch in the center there, that's part of your thermostat. And it untwists from there. Typically when you're pulling it out, it's probably going to break those two bars. That's why you want to go into this with a new thermostat housing. Okay, so I got interrupted there right after I pulled the thermostat and thermostat housing out. It's dark now, but I'm just going to finish putting this together. So what you're going to do is these untwist like that. Those two the plastic barbs right there, they connect to the U-shaped piece on the bottom. And then your O-ring that you're going to replace as well is right here. If those are cracked, you can carefully stick it back on, but it's much harder, and a new one of these isn't that much money. Going OEM, or I guess actually original equipment, so OE not OEM, is technically advisable. I did not do that here because I'm just trying to get this thing fixed cheap. But then you put it on, twist it like that, make sure it's in there. And so if you were going with a new one, you would pull this out, chuck the old one, and assemble your new one with the O-ring in the middle like that. And then if you're checking your water pump, like was the reason that I am doing this, what you're going to do is go down in there and stick your fingers in where the thermostat goes, and go to the passenger side, and stick your fingers to the passenger side, and you should feel your water pump impeller. And the original ones are plastic, aftermarket, or I believe Volkswagen might have issued an updated water pump that had a metal impeller. The plastic ones, they can over time begin to slip on the impeller shaft, and so what you want to do is you want to take your finger and try spinning that the water pump impeller that's on the, go into the passenger side. It's on the side there, and try spinning it. If it does not spin, then to my understanding that means your water pump is good. If it does spin, I'm going to try to see if I can't. No, I can't get the camera to show it. If it does spin, you have a failed water pump. So now that I'm going to assume either you checked that or you are replacing this, either one, you're just going to take this, and there is not a right side to this. It just needs to go, with the two screw holes, up and down. But either way works. I'm going to put it like this with the writing up top, so that if in the future someone is trying to diagnose it, they can see that that is an aftermarket housing. You're just going to stick it in there, and yep, then it should sort of stick on its own a little bit. Grab your bolts and put those back in. Again, not something you want super tight. You don't want them coming out, but they don't need to be super tight. Again, do not drop these. It's bad if you do. For putting them back in, I am actually going to go ahead and just stick them on here to get them started. So I'm going to go off camera. Well, I might be able to do this actually. Maybe. Yeah, I'm going to go off camera for this part and put those bolts in. Having a second hand would be helpful. Okay, so now that we've got those bolts in, the next part is just going to be to take this hose, bring it back around, and wiggle it on here, there's a little stop line you can see. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus. About right there. I don't know if you can see that little line. It's a little raised bump on them. And you just want to get that hose right up to the edge there. That's about as far as it goes. And then take your channel locks or your pliers and squeeze the tabs together on that little hose clamp and move it up. Again, I'm gonna need 2 hands for this. Okay, so we got that back on, and now we're gonna go ahead and pull out any aluminum foil that hasn't already gotten knocked down from covering the alternator, and then we're ready to go back under and close the radiator drain. Okay, so push that in, twist it. I believe it's a 1/4 turn. Yep, feels like a 1/4 turn. Yep. And then we will pull our coolant back out from under there and use that funnel and dump it back in. So that is how I set up the homemade coolant funnel, and you can tell coolant's still clean and pink. I am not going to record pouring it in though, because I need 2 hands for that. So I can't get the camera down there to show where the full mark is, but it's on the bottom half of the coolant overflow bottle. So you want to get the coolant back up, because some spilled out through the thermostat. When you pulled the thermostat and thermostat housing out, you'll probably need to add some more. I will, but that is the basics on how to, number 1, change your thermostat and thermostat housing, and number 2, if you for a reason don't need to, which if I hadn't put one in here probably 100 miles previous to this, I would be changing it anyway, just to, why put a used part back in, but to check if your water pump on your ALH TDI, if the impeller is slipping on it. So there you go. If you have any comments or questions, please post them up in the comments, and I will do my best to answer them. Thank you. Thanks for watching.